First and foremost, I want to wish all of our viewers, all of the Midas Mighty, a happy 4th of July. I hope you have the opportunity to spend the day with your family, to get some rest, because there's going to be a lot of work ahead of us. For those in the United States, of course, happy 4th. But to those abroad, we want to wish you a happy, let's just say, Democracy Day overall. We're all in this together right now. And I think one of the things we've seen more and more is a division between we, the people. And again, I'm not just even talking about in America, I'm talking about we, the people, the connective tissue that links us across the world who want our freedoms and want our democracy. And it's against this kind of oligarchical class of people who are okay with fascism, who are okay with constant lies, and just care about raw power, our planet be damned. Just interesting here, focusing on American politics. Frankly, what a lot of this post-debate discussion has exposed even more. And I suppose if there's anything that Donald Trump's did that can potentially be reflected as good, it's the bad that has been exposed in so many people who were wearing their masks and being able to see the agendas, whether it's the corporate media agendas, the Project 2025 style agendas, of where they're pushing these things. I think we can all, we the people, here and abroad, have a very clear picture of what's going on. And that's why I said, even after the debate, it was fine to reflect on the fact that the debate wasn't good, that President Biden was not good in the debate. As we said, Donald Trump was not good in the debate. But I said it was also important that we take a step back, that we don't panic, and that we reflect on the data, that we reflect on what we can do to ensure the survival of our democracy. Because that's what we're talking about right now, the survival of our democracy. And what we need to do is come together to figure out how to protect, preserve, and defend our democracy, not to panic. And I think that in President Biden, we've seen someone who, throughout all of these media attack, the MAGA attacks, has remained steady and has just been delivering. And that's one of the things I reflect upon on this 4th of July. And I want to also reflect on this 4th of July that the United States of America is not even 250 years old. And it's important, though, that we get to 250, and it's important that we get beyond that, and that the United States continues to be the beacon of hope that I think it once was. That's why we're doing this. That's why we've created this media network. And, I think at the top of the show, to give you these reflections on the 4th, the need for Midas to provide fact-based, evidence-based, data-based things, and not this media mayhem where they're focusing on pushing a narrative over and over and over again, ignoring other massive red flags, ignoring Project 2025, ignoring the Epstein files that dropped this week with Donald Trump's name all over it, ignoring Donald Trump changing the words of the national anthem, ignoring someone who's been found liable for sexual assault, who also goes up on stage and brags about fake conversations with Hannibal Lecter. I can go on and on, led an insurrection. I just think it's important to
Amen.
reflect right now on this day what we've built. When I say we, you watching this, and what we need to continue to build. And we can't just be descriptive of the problem, but we need to be descriptive. We need to call it out. We can't mince words. But what we can then do to take our agency back, as I always hear, Ben, what can we do? What can we do? It's what you're doing right now, though. We can be prescriptive, and we could continue to build a pro-democracy media network that, while the media was focused on being ageist and mocking President Biden's age and ignoring all of the other kind of data points. We did a whole report where we focused on all of President Biden's accomplishments, one after the other. 40,000 infrastructure projects, lowest unemployment, record growth with jobs, month after month exceeding expectations, America's GDP #1 in the world, growing faster than China, focusing on climate change, but also becoming energy independent with more drilling now than ever and more oil production in the history of the United States, in the history of any country in the world, but also focusing on the climate, which is so important to do. We've talked about how crime is actually down. It was up when Donald Trump was in office, whereas every pundit talked about the stock market when Donald Trump was in office. Oh, the closed at this. It's double what it was now, what it is now when Trump was in office. And then there are the important metrics that matter to the people, though, wage growth and all that. So, in any event, I just think it is so important that we talk about these issues and we go from there. Brett, Jordy, I put my hand up there because I'm in a hotel and wanted to just make sure that anyway, you get it. Brett, Jordy, how are you?
Doing great. Happy 4th of July, Midas Mighty. Happy 4th of July, brothers. I miss one episode of the show. I see the media has been behaving absolutely responsibly since I've left. Absolutely no panic. They do not seem to be reveling in their various stories or pushing a narrative at all whatsoever. Right, guys? It's madness. It's absolutely madness what we are seeing. And I think today on this Independence Day, as we reflect on our democracy, as we reflect on all the attacks on our democracy and the threats on our democracy, let's not mince words here. Our democracy is very much under siege like never before, never in my lifetime, and I think certainly never in your lifetime. But what we have seen, over the past few days is just one of the most irresponsible media environments that I've ever seen as well. And I think on this Independence Day, we also need to declare our independence from the corporate media. Stop accepting these narratives that they continue to push. Hey, I don't think that they shouldn't be covering things about the debate.
Agreed.
I just think the ferocity of the coverage, the viciousness of the coverage, and the constant pile on while ignoring everything else, I think that is the issue. And I think we should be able to have hard discussions. I'm sure there are people in the Midas Mighty who have different opinions on what happened at the debate, different opinions on what the Democrats should do next, and that's fine. We should be able to have those difficult discussions. But it's clear that the media is doing something completely different. And I encourage you, maybe just this one time before you declare your full independence from the media, to look at any one of these pundits' Twitter feeds or just anything that they're kind of posting. People who view themselves as quote unquote objective journalists, people like Brian Stelter, other people online who just seem to be reveling in this, with post after post after post. And not only are they clearly trying to push President Biden out, by the way, but they're also downplaying the actual work that he is doing, which quite frankly should be the work that is being praised, which should be this stuff that he is focused on. President Biden posted an image just a couple days ago on his social media account. He signed a bill to help put forward cures for Parkinson's, more funding, more research, and it was mocked. Brian Stelter mocked President Biden for that post, for actually doing the work that the media claims that President Biden is unable to do. For doing stuff that Donald Trump was unable to do when he was in office. And I think it just shows you their hand. This has been a massive mask off moment for the corporate media, but that's why we're happy that you're here with us today. Thank you for celebrating this day. I'm sure a lot of you have a day off today. Thank you for spending your time with us. And that's my top of the show monologue. Jordy, how are you?
Coming in firing, B, but as you should, because to your point, a lot of folks have been unmasked over recent days. It's a damn shame that you can't look at likes anymore on Twitter, because that would also be another really revealing thing to do, is check out some of these journalists' likes and sort of continue to look at the narrative that they're pushing. It honestly feels like a media-led coup at times, with just the insane avalanche. What'd you say?
I said I agree so much with you. I said
just the utterly insane avalanche of coverage. And again, look, you could be critical of President Biden. Absolutely. We're not saying you can't. But then when you just completely ignore all of Donald Trump's failings, and boy, are there plenty, to just continue to push this narrative over every single second. It's just
I'll say this, Jordy. This is the energy that Donald Trump should have received with all of those things that Ben named at the top of the show.
Yes.
I mean, changing the national anthem to be sung by J6ers. I think that deserves a news cycle worse than this. I'm going to say that. And that's just one of the many examples.
2,000 QAnon memes. 2,000,
not a peep.
Over
not
2,000. Not a peep.
And by the way, this is the same Donald Trump.
Military tribunal. I mean, just again, absolutely. And like, where is the coverage? And that's
and the media will go.
The media will go. Message to you right now is this July 4th: declare your independence from corporate media. Subscribe to the MeidasTouch channel if you haven't already.
And the media will go, oh, but it was just a meme he posted. It was just a meme. He didn't actually say it. He posted the meme. I'm like, whoa, he posted the meme? What are you talking about?
They make every excuse in the book. And remember, this is the same individual who went unconscious multiple times during his criminal trial. let's like go back there. And the media treated that just as like a joke. Just a joke, you know. Imagine if Joe Biden fell asleep in the middle of I'm not even going to go to a criminal trial, because that's when you put that in, you're like, that's crazy. That entire sentence is insane. But fell asleep in the middle of literally anything. What do you think their reaction would be, especially now? I'm sure it would not be the same. Oh, it's so funny that Donald Trump falling asleep in court. I guarantee you it would not. And you start to see pretty quickly also how many of these stories are framed, because let's face it, the media, they've been going through a reckoning over these past few years. They had a bit of a renaissance when they were having a difficult time after Donald Trump. Well, they went through a bit of a renaissance under Donald Trump as they were having a difficult time in the new digital media age. They were getting a lot of clicks. They were getting a lot of traffic. And then Joe Biden came in, and guess what? Joe Biden was boring. That's what president should be. Joe Biden was just putting his head down, doing the work, fixing the problems and from the chaos of the previous 4 years. And you could look this up. There were a lot of these journalists who had book deals to cover the intrigue of the Biden administration. They lost their book deals because there ended up not being any intrigue within the Biden administration. There was none of that same conflict that we saw, none of that same chaos that we saw in the Trump administration. So these are a lot of people who had their books canceled, who are seeing layoffs in the media industry because people aren't clicking on their stories anymore. And so when they find a topic like this that makes people nervous, that sends people into a panic, they double, triple, quadruple down on it, because they know that this is their ticket, right? This is their money ticket. And they also, quite frankly, whether they want to admit it or not, I guarantee you that they probably want Trump back in, because they want to go back to those glory days that they had between 2016 and 2020. And the way a lot of these stories are constructed, and I just urge you, if you read any of these, they will say things like a Democratic source tells us. And oftentimes they won't name who the Democratic source is. And in the stories where they do, you'll often see that it's some low-level random delegate in Texas or something that has no bearing on the party whatsoever. You know, they make their story, which is that they want President Biden to be out of the race first. That's their narrative. And then they try to work backwards to create that story. And so they'll call a bunch of delegates to try to get their opinion. They'll find, okay, we found a Democratic delegate for the DNC in Texas. You've never heard her name in your entire life. You don't know who this person is, but this person said something that could justify the title that we want to use for this story. And that's how they'll do it. I mean, it's quite literally that nefarious.
What I think is important, and you said this before, Brett, is to still recognize We're not trying to, do the Men in Black wand and act like President Biden had a good debate. The question is, you as a media network, it's the power of your pen, and how you cover certain things tells you a lot about what your priorities are, because you have choices to make in finite amounts of time, what you're going to cover and how you're going to cover. So as I watch President Biden's debate, I finish watching the debate and I go, that's an awful debate. He did really bad. That was not good at all. That's pretty concerning. All of those things are objective observations of what I watched. That's how I felt about it. I didn't sugarcoat it like when Fox talks about, Donald Trump was probably just getting his beauty sleep. I think he was praying at the trial. I think what he was doing was he was in deep prayer and he looked really good, right? That's what you heard Fox. That's not what we're saying. Biden was bad. It was concerning. All of those things. I could tell you he did try to, he was saying the truth when he was being able to talk. He was saying the things that were accurate. He was trying to answer the questions, but it was a bad debate performance. But does that make me like outraged? And am I going to start going into ageist tropes and mock President Biden and say, no, not at all. So then I have to figure out where on my outrage meter do I place that, right? Running a media network. So I have to think about it in a broader context. I think about it in terms of 3.5 years of President Biden, I think doing incredible, once in a generation or perhaps no generational president has been as impactful as him in terms of the moves that he's made. So I've compared that 90 minutes in terms of a 3.5 year context. I think about it in terms as well as what did President Biden do the next day? I think about it in terms of who are the people closest to him and what are they saying? How are they reflecting, this day? And then I kind of put it in my, litmus test of where it is. And then I think to myself, okay, this week, Donald Trump's name appeared repeatedly in the Epstein message logs. We know that Donald Trump's name was on Epstein's flight log over 7 times, in addition to being on the message logs here. And these message logs are like other messages involve like Epstein setting up massages with like teenagers. We have Trump on the flight log. We know that Epstein was on Trump's plane. Donald Trump said that Epstein's a great guy and that he likes women on the younger side. We know about events where Donald Trump would have these events on yachts, like in 1991 when he was hosting Look of the Year. And like there were like all these men who were there grinding on like 14-year-old little girls and younger girls. And like, so I think to myself, okay, there's that. And then Donald Trump's been found liable for sexual assault. He is a convicted felon. He led an insurrection that I observed with my eyes. He told us to inject bleach and like a miracle, it was all going to go away. He said that COVID was never going to hit our shores. There was Helsinki, where he praised Russian intelligence over the United States. He gave classified information to Russia. You know how like the media just glosses over that? Like it is undisputed that the first people who visited the Oval Office, right, were Kislyak and Lavrov, Putin's top 2 people. They went to the Oval Office. They had a meeting with Trump outside of the presence of any media or Trump's advisors. And Trump gave him classified information. Trump tweeted about it. He said he gave him the information. The way Trump said was, well, I wanted to talk to them about terrorism and other issues. And so I have the absolute authority to give them those things. And then in my own, as I'm thinking about the power of my pen, or I guess in this case, the power of the camera here, I also think about the Supreme Court's decision, finding that a president is above the law and have absolute immunity. And on the one hand, President Biden says, no, we don't. We don't. I am not going to abuse my power. I don't have, the Supreme Court may say that. No person is above the law. We have Biden saying that. And then we have Donald Trump saying, I want to be a dictator on day one. And he's created Project 2025 to become a dictator on day one. So then I have to channel the outrage and the camera or the power of my pen to focus on some of these issues. So I have to think, what am I going to devote more attention to? The fact that President Biden had a bad debate in 90 minutes of an otherwise very successful presidency. And even if you go through, really tragic scenarios in your mind, you have succession plans and an administration that's in place that's that's been successful at all levers in handling national security, domestic security, economy. Or do I focus my outrage on the most outrageous conduct ever in the history of the United States of America and perhaps the world with Donald Trump's behavior? Where am I going to focus my attention on? And what I want to show us all, in just a little bit, though, is I also think that this is a people reclaiming their power moment on this Independence Day. I think people are fed up with the media's coverage, and they're letting the media know, what the heck are you doing? President Biden might not be perfect. President Biden may have had an awful debate. We have bad days, but damn it, stop gaslighting us. We know what the economy's like right now. We know what it was like under Trump. Stop acting like there are illegal immigrants coming through our kitchens right now and killing us on a daily. Stop gaslighting. Yes, we could say immigration is a problem, but stop with this gaslighting us of keeping we the people in this constant sense of fear and telling us that everything's horrible when we know the difference between Biden and Trump. And then you think about this mask off moment, Brett, and Jordy, where I think they tipped their hand. Yeah. This is what they've been doing now since Donald Trump went down the escalator. And this is what they've been doing the entire time. This is a moment where we can see it with a different level of clarity, but this is who they've always been. Oh, this was tonight Donald Trump became the real remember, like after the State of the Union, tonight was the night. And then like they all did. And by the way, I'm not, there are some of those people in the media who then worked behind the scenes with Kushner as part of the kind of pay for play pardon situations that were going on as well. And you know exactly who you are if you're watching this, who I'm talking about as well. And let's be very clear about what is going on there behind the scenes as well. When we get back, I want to talk about what went down. I want to use the power of my pen and our camera and our lens in our community to talk about what the media is not talking about, though, as well. And I want to talk about, remember, all MAGA, release the Epstein files, release the okay, well, they're released. And guess what? Trump's name is on them over and over and over and over again. And guess what? Now you're not talking about it. Oh, now there's no conversation about it. So I want to talk about that. I want to also talk about people reclaiming their power. And I want to talk about moving forward together as the pro-democracy community and what we're going to do, what you're going to do, because this community, all of you watching, I'm telling you right now, the MeidasTouch Network, we're going to grow bigger than CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of these networks together, because this is fueled by you, the Meidas Mighty, you, the people, we, the people. We'll be right back. AI might be the most important computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up, folks. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power naturally. So how do you compete without the costs spiraling out of control? Good question. It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Midas. Go to oracle.com/MEIDAS. That's oracle.com/Midas. Go to oracle.com/Midas and tell them the MeidasTouch brothers say hello.
Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health. When you are sleeping well, you can perform at your best mentally and physically. Introducing Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. If you know me, you know that Dream has been an absolute game changer for my sleep. I drink Beam's Dream Powder each night in order to get my optimal sleep, and I have to say, I would not be recommending this if it didn't actually help me. And today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. Now available in delicious flavors like chocolate peanut butter, cinnamon cocoa, and sea salt caramel with only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. Other sleep aids could cause next day grogginess, but Dreams contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. The numbers don't lie. In a clinical study, 93% of participants reported Dream helped them get better sleep. Beam Dream is easy to add to your nighttime routine. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk, froth, and enjoy before bed. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Midas and use code Midas at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/MEIDAS and use code Midas for up to 40% off.
Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors, y'all. Links are in the description of the YouTube and the audio. Click them. Make sure you use our code and that like special link that we have, because it lets them know that we sent you here at the MeidasTouch Podcast, and it helps us out. Helps you out too. Some great products. Benji, where are we going next?
First and foremost, I don't want to talk about polling because, well, I say that, then I slightly talk about polling. So
here's the thing about the polling. It's like when so many people want to reference these polls that are coming out like now and earlier after the debate, it's also just like, these are the same polls that told us there was going to be a red wave in 2022. These are the same polls that said Trump was going to win in 2020. It's just like, I like to deal in data and facts and actually with experts, Ben, like the person we showed last episode talking with CNN who correctly predicted the last 9 out of 10 presidents.
Yeah, you're talking about Professor Alan Lichtman, distinguished historian at American University, who talks about stop it with your polls. Your polls are snapshots in time that don't give you any significant data. I mean, they can show you potentially trends, but they're based on certain assumptions, and your underlying data assumptions may not be right. Focus on these things. Where's the economy at? Is it an incumbent? And he goes on with his list of his 12 kind of key factors.
Can I show this? Because I saw this yesterday. Somebody had rehashed it. Adam Carlson, who is I'm not sure if he's a current pollster, but I think he's a former pollster. And he currently does market research and things like that. And he reposted the poll from after the Access Hollywood tape dropped in 2016. And it's quite shocking to see these numbers and know what ended up happening and just how wrong these things could be. So here was the poll that happened after the Access Hollywood tape. Remember, 2016. Clinton, 52. Trump, 38. It's not exactly the 1 to 2 point swings that we're seeing in these Biden polls right now. In the four-way race, Clinton, 46. Trump, 35. Johnson, 9. Stein, 2. And here, additionally, was the analysis that NBC gave back then based on this poll. Quote, Donald Trump's chances of winning this election have faded, says Democratic pollster Fred Yang of Hart Research Associates, which conducted this survey with Republican pollster Bill McInturff and his firm Public Opinion Strategies. This poll is showing the writing on the wall. Well,
You know who
I don't know
predicted,
what
though,
that
Trump was going to win?
Alan.
Professor Alan Lichtman. Professor Lichtman used his keys and says, I don't believe those polls. I think Trump was going to win in 2016. And Lichtman says, I think President Biden's going to win in 2024. Look at all of the factors. And if you look at these factors, you can be more predictive of people's actual voting behavior when they go in. But here's the thing, the polls aren't even doom and gloom. Like, they really aren't. I mean, there was a poll today in Wisconsin that shows that President Biden now taken the lead.
That's the polling average, by the way.
The polling average of all Wisconsin polls. Biden's now taking the lead post debate, not going backwards, going forward. Granted, it's by a very small percentage point, but the point is, I could take any poll and push a narrative if your goal was to try to push a poll-based narrative. The CNN poll, which is like a C- rated poll, meaning it's a bad poll. Back in April, their data remains unchanged from their April data to their current data, yet they don't emphasize that, which means they've included the same underlying assumptions, but they don't tell you that their data has remained the same based on the assumptions that they put in, which I think are faulty. But the TIP poll, TIPP, which is generally viewed as one of the top polls, some of the data was taken slightly before the debate and some of the data after the debate, but that has Biden taking the lead. And so the point is, I could have run a Reuters Ipsos when they did their analysis of all of the other people against Trump. Reuters Ipsos had 40-40, Biden, Trump, 40-40. And then anybody else running against Trump was running less, whether it was Newsom, whether it was Harris, whether it was Buttigieg, whoever was running less than Biden v. Trump. And that was at 40-40. And if at 40-40, who do you think that remaining 20 is going to break towards if you assume that 40-40 is accurate? You think the undecideds and independents? I mean, you can listen to the media narratives and say, oh, the undecideds and independents are now, they want fascism now all of a sudden. These people who they want someone who hangs out with Epstein. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. America inherently is smart, is decent, and cares about our democracy. I fundamentally believe that, which is why the arc shifts usually in our country towards improving things. But the arc is often pulled back and the pendulum can be held back because there is a contingency of our population that doesn't want those things at all. But to me, that's not the majority. The real silent majority in the United States of America are decent, loving, caring, compassionate people who care about equality, and if they have someone who's LGBTQ plus in their family, or they have a trans person in their family, they want them to be treated equally and with love and compassion. The American isn't want to mock people. Americans don't like mocking disabled people. When Donald Trump mocked the disabled, Americans, by and large, don't want to mock disabled people. You're not going to convince me that Americans think that our military veterans are suckers and losers, and they believe Donald Trump when he says that his own chief of staff, who's a general who heard him say it, was lying about it. Trump's own chief of staff said it when Trump's own former vice president doesn't even support him, and like 40 of Trump's closest advisors don't support him and say he's a threat to our democracy. So I simply think that, one, I don't buy into the polls. Two, if you wanted me to construct a narrative and say the polls show President Biden winning, I could do that narrative. It wouldn't be, I think, a good way to use, again, going back to the analogy of the power of the pen and the power of our lens, to do that. But if you were agenda driven and you wanted to push that, you could push that. I mean, the reason that I gave the analysis I did about the criminal trials was not to give you hopium that Trump was going to be convicted. I predicted he was going to be convicted because I was giving you the data and what the witnesses were saying and what the people were ultimately saying. The same way you may not have liked when I said it, but the moment the Supreme Court ruling came out, I said, I think that could potentially stop the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case. I said it right away. I said the Supreme Court went above and beyond what Donald Trump was asking for with absolute immunity and said when it comes to evidentiary issues, you can't even introduce evidence from Trump in the White House at all if those acts would be subject to official immunity. So I remembered the Manhattan District Attorney trial, and there were acts that have nothing to really do with the underlying crimes, but Hope Hicks speaking to Trump in the White House, Trump throwing events in the White House after the fact, how Trump received his mail in the White House. There were a number of things that involved Trump in the White House. So what Trump's lawyers were going to argue, I told you, and what they did argue was that those things should have been excluded from the trial. And because they weren't excluded, therefore there needs to be a new trial, or the trial needs to be, or the verdict needs to be set aside. And this week, Justice Merchan moved sentencing until September, I think it's 18th, to allow the parties to do briefing on this issue. Now, you may not like that I said that, but I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you the data points. And then, as I said, we can be descriptive, but also prescriptive. Then we got to figure out what we, the people, can do. And we, the people, who are truly the silent majority in the United States of America, who do not want to go to rallies wearing shirts that say, I'm with the convicted felon, or have flags that have anybody's name on it, we have to reclaim the real power of being the silent majority here. I mean, just take a look at some of these things that Trump is selling on the 4th of July. I mean, as President Biden and former President Obama are wishing people happy 4th, Donald Trump is out there selling Trump flags. He's got this flag with his name on it. You could buy this for $500 to $1,000. I couldn't have put together such a dominant performance, he says, if it wasn't for you. Get this gold Trump flag. He puts his name on the American flag like that, Trump. Then there's another photo of the MAGA flag. This is what he wants everybody to hang on the 4th of July. The Make America Great Again flag. The only flag I flag is the flag of these United States of America. Like that's the flag. The flag in the background right there. I'm not flying a MAGA flag. I'm not flying a flag that has somebody's name on it. And Donald Trump goes into churches and leads cursing rallies. Did you ever think he goes into churches, holds political rallies there, and then encourages the kids in the church to say the words BS, but the actual words over and over again, and curse and curse and curse. Now, whether you're religious or not religious, shouldn't be cursing it, but like just constant cursing everywhere. Like what? It's just one of those things where I think when like you heard me there, like when President Biden's up there, he's like, what? This is the United States. What are we talking about? What is it? What is this even? How are we normalizing it? I mean, I think part of it too is President Biden's like, how am I on stage with a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, convicted felon, someone found liable for sexual assault, who's on tape bragging about sexually assaulting? How am I even on stage with this guy right now? Like, there's got to be a lot of that too going through. Like, this is a disgusting person. What are we talking about? I found this interesting though, Brett and Jordy. Don't worry, I'm going to get to all the Epstein files in a minute. I know people are like, talk about Epstein and Trump. I will. New York Times posted the following on their Instagram. Biden lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. And they got destroyed in the comments. Destroyed. And by the way, what I'm seeing across the board right now, a lot of these, and other blogs as well, where people are coming from Biden, the American people, like, Joe is with us. He's Grandpa Joe, Uncle Joe, whatever, but he was with us and he helped us. So do not go there. It's like someone attacking your own grandpa, or your own family member who's like actually been. Don't go there. Do not go there, right? And so you see some of these comments like, Trump fell asleep repeatedly during his trial and doesn't know the name of his wife. But you know what? Biden isn't telling us he's going to try to become a dictator. So yeah, I'm voting for Biden. Nice try, New York Times. It's like you guys want Project 2025 to come to fruition. Yeah, and Mitch McConnell stroked out. These are all different comments I'm reading. And Mitch McConnell stroked out twice on live television. I'm voting for Biden. Alex writes, reports like this take the focus of how dangerous a Trump second term would be. Do better. Another comment. Project 2025. This should be your story every freaking day. anti-rights. You know what else is becoming increasingly common and worrisome? The demonization of a great president, and currently our one hope to continue this democracy. Unsub to the New York Times and vote blue. Using his stutter to judge competency is ableism. His stutter doesn't make him incompetent. This is irresponsible journalism. Then someone goes, sorry, I didn't realize I followed the New York Post. What is this? The step to defeating fascism in America is very simple. Americans know what's at stake. And then Brett and Jordy, here's what I'll just say.
And by the way, I'll say too, those aren't like cherry picked comments. Those, it's not like we assembled them in a montage. These were quite literally like all the comments that we saw, at least all the top comments that we saw on this. And you see also how many likes that many of these comments had. I mean, there is a real energy of people who are absolutely furious by this media feeding frenzy. And sorry, Ben, back to you.
No, because I don't fault them for covering it. I don't want that to be mistaken.
Exactly.
You can cover this. I agree. It is important. But the question is, on the spectrum of importance, where do you put bad debate old versus dictator, authoritarianism, sexual assault, convicted felony, changing national anthem lyrics, insurrection?
And then once again, this isn't a situation of hypotheticals. Like the question is always, well, can Biden lead? Can he do the job as president? Yeah, he's doing it right now. He's quite literally doing it. And not only is he doing it, but he's probably been like the single most successful, impactful president in an entire generation. I mean, the guy has passed more comprehensive bipartisan legislation than any president that I could remember. The guy has taken us out of the worst situation that we have ever been in as a country as far back as I can remember, with taking us out of the hole that Trump put us in with COVID and everything else that Donald Trump did. I mean, you know that he could do the job because he has done it, and he has done it effectively. If Biden was completely flailing, if nothing was getting done, if things were collapsing, like then I'd be concerned, then I'd be like, you know what, maybe this should be running 24/7. I understand the panic. I understand the fear. Every story should be about this, but that's not the case. That's not the case. We don't have this. We don't have to deal in hypotheticals. We saw what the country was like under Donald Trump. We see what the country is like under President Biden, and we hear directly from Donald Trump and his Republican friends what they plan to do if they take power. And they were just given yet another green light by the Supreme Court. You have the people at the Heritage Foundation, the folks behind Project 2025, quite literally saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, we may have the clip, saying to the effect of, the revolution will be bloodless so long as the left does not fight back or complain or something to that. They are saying that out loud, what they want to do. They are saying that they want to strip away all the rights, all the progress this country has made in hundreds of years. We're not dealing in hypotheticals here, people. And so, yes, the discussions are important. The coverage, it should happen. But it should not be the only focus, and it should not be the main focus. And at the same time, though, I don't think this is contradicting myself, but I think it's important for folks to be able to have discussions. I think it's important for folks, for in good faith, to have discussions about what they think is best, and for people's voices to be heard. I think that's important in a democracy, and I don't think we should write anybody off for having different opinions than us. I'm sure there are folks listening to this who have different opinions than us. I'm sure people have seen a lot of the kind of debates online between folks who we all know and respect, and maybe other podcasts you listen to. Different opinions are absolutely fine. But we have to make sure that all those opinions have one common denominator, and that is that they are in the interests of preserving our democracy and acknowledging the threat that is before us.
Here is that Project 2025 clip, Brett, that you were referencing. This is the leader of Project 2025 talking about currently engaging in an American revolution that may or may not be bloodless, depending on what the left allows them to do. Play this clip.
That we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
And that's exactly also what I would have expected the leader to sound and look like a Project 2025. And it is a combination of the Project 2025 plan. Then you have what the Supreme Court's doing to kind of open up the lane and to declare anything. I mean, look, our United States Supreme Court just ruled that a president can order the military to assassinate his political rivals, or anybody can assassinate you, us, me, can shut down the media, can do whatever they want. And as long as it's an official act, they'll get absolute immunity for it. And we have President Biden saying, I don't want that power. That's not something I should have. That's not something any president should have. And you have Donald Trump saying, yeah, I'm going to be a dictator. He's saying it. I'm not saying that he's saying it. He's saying, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. I'm going to have the largest deportation in the history. And on day one, I'm going to round up people and throw them into camps. That's what day one's going to look like, throwing people into camps in the United States. That's what he's saying he's going to do. And again, I have the power of this pen and this platform to talk about what's most concerning to me. What Trump is doing and what he's done is not just concerning. It is as concerning of a thing, if you care about our democracy and your freedom, as there ever is. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to talk about Trump's Epstein connections.
My old laundry detergent used to come in these big plastic jugs, and it never lived up to the hype. I know you know what I'm talking about. The laundry wouldn't come out as fresh as it was supposed to, and that became so frustrating. This podcast is sponsored by Laundry Sauce. Laundry Sauce created the world's best-smelling laundry detergent in simple-to-use, high-performance pods. Laundry Sauce has transformed the mundane task of doing laundry into a luxurious and exciting experience, so you don't have to dread laundry day anymore. Earlier this week, I just used the Egyptian rose pods, and my clothes smell amazing. So what's the secret behind Laundry Sauce? Well, they partnered with one of the top fragrance houses in the world, the same team behind many of your favorite designer scents. From Australian sandalwood to Egyptian rose to cyber pine, with Laundry Sauce, laundry day will never smell the same again. Plus, they stripped away all the unnecessary ingredients and artificial dyes and maximized the hardworking science-backed stain fighters and enzymes to ensure your favorite clothes come out looking brand new. I went from dreading doing laundry to legitimately being excited to do laundry because I know my clothes will come out smelling amazing. I love Laundry Sauce so much. My favorite scent is that Egyptian rose I mentioned earlier. It's sort of like a rose mixed with some warm nutmeg and clover spice. It's amazing. And I'm not going to lie, my whole house kind of smells like Laundry Sauce now, but I'm not complaining, and I know it's just me. Check out the reviews on their site. They're some of the funniest reviews you will ever read and are super authentic. They match my own experience exactly. Plus, it's not just the pods that they sell. Laundry Sauce makes scent boosters, dryer sheets, dryer balls, fabric softeners, and even candles too. Plus, if you aren't happy, send back Laundry Sauce for a full refund, no questions asked. Elevate your laundry with Laundry Sauce. Now is the time to experience Laundry Sauce. Head to laundrysauce.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout for 15% off. That's the best offer you'll find, but you must use our code Meidas, that's MEIDAS, for 15% off your order. One last time, that's laundrysauce.com/Meidas, promo code Meidas, MEIDAS, for 15% off. Okay, there's nothing worse than light pouring in the house when you're trying to catch up on some rest. Having good blinds in your home may just be the most underrated addition that you could make. There's a better way to buy blinds and window treatments, and it's called 3-Day Blinds. They are the leading manufacturer of custom window treatments in the US, and right now they are running a buy one, get one 50% off deal. We could shop for almost anything at home. Why not shop for blinds at home too? 3-Day Blinds has local professionally trained design consultants who have an average of 10 plus years of experience that provide expert guidance on the right blinds for you in the comfort of your home. Just set up an appointment and you'll get a free, no obligation quote the same day. Not very handy? The expert team at 3 Day Blinds handles all the heavy lifting. They design, measure, install, so you could sit back, relax, and leave it to the pros. I've been using 3 Day Blinds since way before they were even a sponsor of the MeidasTouch podcast. My friend had redone his entire home with 3 Day Blinds. He got the smart blinds installed where you just ask Alexa to open your blinds and it happens automatically. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I asked him, where did he get this? How did this happen? He told me all about 3 Day Blinds and how easy the process was. And I ended up getting all the blinds in my home from 3 Day Blinds, and I am so glad that I did. They had so many options to choose from, and they were so helpful in guiding me to pick the perfect blinds for my home. It's no surprise that 3 Day Blinds has been in business for over 45 years and is the highest rated blinds company on Trustpilot at 4.7 out of 5 stars. Right now, you could get 3 Day Blinds buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/Meidas. That's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to 3dayblinds.com/Meidas. One last time, that's the number 3, DAY blinds.com/Meidas.
Let's go. Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors. Links in the description of the audio and the YouTube. Click them. Let them know we sent you. And brothers, real quick before we get back into the show, Mom loves laundry sauce. She tells me all the time, like it's her new favorite sponsor of the pod. She always supports the sponsors in the show. She's been really digging in on laundry sauce, so I'm stoked about that.
She does love laundry sauce so much.
She does. And 3 Day Blinds. I love these new sponsors we're getting here. So 3 Day Blinds is excellent as well. Like a really incredible deal if y'all know how expensive lines can get, so definitely check them out as well. Just
my favorite is when a sponsor comes to us, which is a sponsor that I actually used, like, in the past, and then I'm like, oh, I know, yeah, of course I've used them. That's amazing. Also, huge shout out to Salty and Jeremy and Sydney and Hayden and our entire team, and especially a huge shout out to Salty for that incredible graphics package that we now have in the MeidasTouch podcast. Very, very, very cool stuff.
By the way, they're working hard on all the other MeidasTouch podcasts out there that are crushing it. I mean, in the MeidasTouch YouTube channels. So they're helping build the new Michael Cohen YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. They're working with Adam Mockler's YouTube channel, Adam Mockler, Tennessee Brando's YouTube channel at Tennessee Brando. They're working on True Crime MTN, which is a great channel. Coalition of the Sane, which is a great channel. Anyone that I'm missing there, you let me know and I'll apologize. Oh, Talking Feds. The Talking Feds YouTube channel with Harry Littman. Make sure you go and subscribe there. Our team's working behind the scenes with all of those channels, making them grow so we could increase the reach of this pro-democracy community. Finally, Donald Trump's connections with Epstein. We talk about it here on the MeidasTouch Network, and I know corporate media doesn't like to talk about it at all. But, all of the MAGA people and the QAnon people who talk about all these pedo rings and whatever they talk about, at the end of the day, they were saying, release the files, release the files. Okay, well, the files were released. They were released at different times. I mean, there was the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, so there was data released in connection with that trial. There were more civil documents that were released as well as part of the civil lawsuits that was brought by like Virginia Giuffre and others. And by the way, Virginia Giuffre, who was one of the victims Epstein trafficked, she worked at Mar-a-Lago. And so the way Epstein met her and then trafficked her was Ghislaine Maxwell found her at Mar-a-Lago. Her dad, Virginia Giuffre's dad, was one of like the groundskeepers at Mar-a-Lago, and Virginia Giuffre was homeless, living on the streets, and then her dad helped get a job at Mar-a-Lago, and then she met Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago, and then was introduced to Epstein, and that's what happened there. So, I mean, we've gotten deposition transcripts out there, but a new batch of documents were released. Governor DeSantis signed a law to release additional documents. Legislature passed it. Nearly 200 pages of documents, additional documents released. And in these new documents that were released by Circuit Court Judge Luis Delgado, we have the messages that were sent, or the message logs that were sent by Epstein or people who were calling Epstein. And so Donald Trump's name appears over and over and over again on these new messages. As this one account says, we see Donald's phone message in the West Palm Beach indictment of Epstein. His messages are in between girls calling to confirm massage appointments and messages from disgraced modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, who took his life by suicide as well. We also know that Donald Trump was on Epstein's flight logs at least 7 times. Here are just the receipts from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Donald Trump's name appears repeatedly in court files relating to Epstein and people who were deposed. Donald Trump's names in the depositions over and over again. Epstein visiting Donald Trump. Trump brought his kids to hang out with Epstein. You see right there Eric and Ivanka and Jeff Epstein in a photo right there. Donald Trump would party with Epstein all the time. Like they're like very good friends, like very close friends. I'd venture to say it's probably very few people whose name is mentioned in the Epstein files as much as Trump's name is mentioned in the files over and over again. And then, of course, you have, stories like this, that these are undisputed stories about things that went down. Like when Donald Trump hosted what's called the Look of the Year competition for teenage girls, little girls. And this is like a 1991 cruise where girls as young as 14 danced under the disco lights. It could have been a middle school prom were it not they said high school prom here, but 14-year-old middle school prom were it not for the crowd of older men surrounding them. As the evening wore on, some of the men, many old enough to be the girls' fathers or even grandfathers, joined them on the dance floor, pressing themselves against the little girls. One balding man in a suit wrapped his arms around little girls, leering into the film camera that was documenting the evening. Can you get some more of these beautiful women around me, please? This was on a yacht, and it was several events that Donald Trump, who was 45 years old, attended. And just so you see who these girls were, I mean, this photo to me is, I think, one that it's disturbing to look at, but I think it's important to see. Like, this is what the girls were that were as part of Donald Trump's show, and like the girls who were on the boat at the event. This is the Look of the Year event that Donald Trump threw. And then you take this and you compare it to just the things that Donald Trump was saying. Like, here's audio. I think at this point in time, Lindsay Lohan was like 17 or 18 years old. And Donald Trump said that because she had mental health issues that were being discussed, he'd want to sleep with her more. She would be better in bed because of her mental health problems. Here, play this clip.
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan now?
I think she's hot.
There's something there, right?
Yes.
But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest.
Yes.
And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles?
If the father's a wreck like the way he is,
Right.
you imagine the sex with this troubled...
Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
Back in the day...
How come the deeply troubled women,
Yes.
deeply troubled,
Right.
they're always the best in bed? If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable.
I can tell from the...
You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing.
And let me just show you how Donald Trump talks about his daughter, Ivanka. Here, play this clip.
She does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
If I weren't happily married and, her father.
My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
By the way, your daughter,
She's beautiful.
can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
It's
She's tall.
unbelievable.
She's almost 6 feet.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
I mean, horrible. I mean, and I could show you other audio clips where he talks about how he would walk in on women in the beauty pageants and girls at the beauty pageants and look at their bodies and inspect their naked bodies and act like he was like inspecting them. And he bragged about that. But you hear him in his own words there. You see his name in the release of Epstein files, and it doesn't take a lot to know what was going on there. And we're talking about the energy the media is giving to certain things. How's there there's zero energy on that, zero. And perhaps the corporate media is telling on themselves for not covering that. They are. But how do you not cover that? How do you not cover all of that aspects? We're talking about the presidency of the United States. We're talking about the presidency of the United States. And we're talking about our kids and our grandkids. That's the character of the leader of the Republican Party. His character is important too. Characters critical. And I want us to just reflect on that. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit at a loss of words when I watch that stuff. When I see how sickening he is, like I just think to myself, like, who talks like that? How is there a major American political party enabling that? Okay with it? Because it's out there. You can listen to it. How is corporate media not talking about that? Why? But we're going to talk about it here every day. The MeidasTouch Network. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to all the MeidasTouch YouTubes. And, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We gave we're posting it as well on the YouTube, but, we gave a message after the debates that I think resonated also with a lot of people. And so make sure you subscribe to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We don't have outside investors at the MeidasTouch Network. So we've built this based on emojis on our YouTube channel, our pro-democracy sponsors, our Patreon, some of the main ways we built this. So thank you for that. And rest up. We've got a lot of work. We got a lot of work to do for our democracy. And I don't want you to worry, though, because every step of the way, we're going to be with you. Every step of the way. We're in this together, and this is about preserving, protecting, and defending our democracy. So happy 4th. Let's get to work for our democracy. Jordy.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstallenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Midas Mighty. Let's use our power well.